It's Monday. It's Easter Monday, even. And we're live with the Metal Lab. It's just myself and Jay this week. Say hello to everybody, Jay.
Hi.
And unlike last week, we have next to nothing to talk about because last week we did our figure by figure review of Rebirth, and this week we don't have that to talk about. we don't have a great deal. Rebirth is out in the world, and really we have just our stuff from the week to talk about. We might muse a little about the game of Hero Clicks and what's up with it, but other than that, I mean, we're just kind of blasé today. So if you're watching live, today is the best day to get those questions in the chat because we'll be paying attention. And if you're watching live and you happen to be part of our patron only Discord, please use that Troll the Metal Lab channel to give us questions because we need content today. Jay, it's been a week. Actually, it's been 2 weeks for you. We haven't seen you since New York. How you
No,
been?
because because last week was not good timing because I was on vacation and you had Tom, you were covered.
Of
I don't know
course, I
what
was
more I
covered.
probably would have added anyway. And then the week before I was crunching on I had about a week to do 6,000 words worth of take home, so that was fun.
Oh boy.
So, yeah.
But
Humanities majors.
how's it been in HeroClix for you, sir?
I never talked about states, but those were good. That was like 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
In case the viewers don't know, I got second. Oh, I got second in the Tom and Devin competition 2 different times. Like in New York, I beat Tom in top four, then lost to Devin, and then in Ontario, I beat Devin in top four, then lost to Tom. So I did okay.
Yeah.
All things
Actually, I think we had
considered.
Devin on the show. He had a little bit of chance to talk about that.
Yeah, sounds right. But in all honesty, there was really no point in me as the Rockhead judge getting the titles. It ended up making more sense for people to get titles that are not, whatever. So I'm all for giving Tom more clout. So that was fun. Fun games with the Captain Marvel Lockjaw shenanigans, although Lockjaw shenanigans never actually ended up happening because it was just not going to happen. Like nobody's actually going to KO Captain Marvel and then KO Lockjaw.
Step one, KO Lockjaw. Step two, KO Captain Marvels.
No, no. But so after that, I didn't play. I played a Rebirth pre-release where I had the best scientist theme team. I know you like scientist theme teams. I had Oz at 100 and the 200 point Lex Luthor. I won. I won one game. Oh my god! So yeah, I guess I may as well talk about that. So game one, I should have won this game based on what I had, but I won it anyways because despite being an idiot, because luck happened. So basically, I was playing that against Kyle, who of course pulled Barbados because he only pulls the best stuff. So the problem with Lex Luthor versus Barbados is that Lex Luthor has running shot in 6 range and outwit, and then Barbados says that if you're within 6, you get Battle Fury. So, but what I didn't realize is that I had the TK with Oz and just theoretically have TK'd him in. But I won anyway because Kyle was literally rolling like threes and fours. So, and then I won, and I lost the a game to Austin's Teen Titan Swarm with like 4 perplexes because partially due to Lex rolling like literally 3 crit misses in one game. Even with Oz's prob, it didn't quite work out. And then I won another game. Lex Luthor basically made one attack, and then Oz basically finished off a whole team by himself on a stop cloak. He would
Oof.
literally just make an attack and do his poof over for 6 squares over, and that was that. Otherwise, no rebirth sealed. And then this week, I played one event at 401 where it was basically it was like 500. It was the easiest restriction to follow ever because it was rebirth. It was 500 golden, mandatory at least one piece from rebirth, but literally anybody could just play Prez and be satisfying the requirements.
Yeah.
So I did almost a JSA, but technically Justice League theme. I played champion, made Stargirl at 75 because I'd never actually done that before. I wanted to try it out. I played Billy Batson at 40. I played Element Man because picking Mastermind to Mastermind ability to trigger transformation is good. I played Super Friends Wonder Woman at full because that's basically my favorite Wonder Woman. Uh, and I had Casey Green Lantern at lower and Hawkman Hawkgirl and Prez. Basically, I wanted to play Champ Maids. And I wanted the new 52 Justice League ATA, which increases leadership roles to give Prez a 3 through 6 success instead of a 4 through 6, which is outrageous, but worked out pretty good. I did end up taking the mandatory Ram 1 Judge by and then played 2 other games. Played against Mike and Map. He basically won when he won Map Roll because he's playing Batman Family with the Jim Gordon robot Batman and 2 Bat Knights. And he picked the rooftopy Gotham map from Batman the Animated Series. I just had literally nowhere to hide. He had all the stats and just shot me a bunch, and then I couldn't hit anything even when I got to make attacks. So that was fun. I think I killed his Gray Ghost, and then he almost wiped me. It just went to time, and then I beat our friend Manny, who just finished school for the year, and he's in law school. So he came out for the first event in like months, and he had a JSA team, and I barely scraped by. The problem was that he was intending to carry his whole team with the invisible jet from a ways ago from the original Batman set, but then it would have made his team susceptible to the Wonder Woman lasso power, where she lassos everybody adjacent to a given character. So he basically had to not quite carry his whole team, and then I ended up scraping a win somehow. I literally don't know how, considering he had Jakeem, but stuff happened. And then that was it in the past like month. This week we're starting Thursdays back up at 401 games since they adjusted their closing hours. So we're doing just like a 400 golden casual. I'm playing some of the new. Actually, no. I guess I'm only playing the new Red Hood, but I'm playing Batman Family, so that should be fun. I do enjoy my Batman Family and HeroClix, regardless of how overblown I think Batman is these days. But still, those teams are always great fun with all the street level guys with all the smart person powers and whatnot. So that should be good. No competitive for me for a while because I just don't know what the heck there is. Well, I guess that does remind me that there was that open prizing that we can talk about. That's like one thing.
Oh yeah, I mean,
That's
yeah, they
yeah.
announced some of the prizes. I mean, we
Yeah,
don't
the
have any
Marvel
information on the prizes, but like other than prize names, we don't know much about
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
figures
yeah. Of
do.
course, we don't know. I mean, we know what the sculpts will be because of how the pattern is, but that's pretty much it. Yeah. New Mandarin rings sound interesting, but did you play HeroClix this week? I'm guessing not.
I actually played one game on camera, even because
Ah,
we
yeah,
did
because
the
your
Buried
other
Lab.
show. Okay.
So myself and Amber got a chance to play with some figures from Rebirth. I played simply with the Black Adam and the Deathstroke from the set, and Amber played
Nice.
with Shazam, Steel, and Wonder Woman. And I got to the point towards the end where it was just a matter of Black Adam had to finish the game off because he's ruthless. He's ruthless. Um, and I'm in love with the Black Adam, actually, to be brutally honest. Initial thoughts were like, he's very meh. And then you start using him, and you realize a number of things about him. One of which is he's traded super senses. So you include that with Invincible. And then he's also Quintessence, which is fabulous. And he's Mystics, which is also okay. I mean, it's one of the things we always kind of poo-poo Mystics nowadays, but I think the big problem with Mystics right now is that one of the big contenders in the game is the Unimind. And yeah, duh. The Unimind is an obvious, like, oh my god, this guy is definitely one of the strongest characters out there. But then everything else really does take damage to that Mystics. So, that's kind of just amusing in addition to this. Anyway, I do kind of want to build with the Black Adam and construct to see what I can pull off with him. It might not be the greatest teams, but he does survive a problem in the game, which I do. We do want to spend a little bit more time once we've really kind of done a deep dive, deep dig on the character and and things. But we all know that the Vulture in the current competitive metagame, he's super scary. And I did the
Yeah.
math, and Black Adam against Vulture's peak survives his volley because he's got Invincible to start. Can't outwit that Invincible, right? So if he takes that first shot, and then he takes that second shot, he survives because he takes the first shot, 3 damage goes to Invincible. Then he takes another shot, and then he's no longer on Invincible, but that's his flurry gone. So
Right.
I look at it in that manner. In addition to the fact that when he does return fire, he kind of comes back a little. Plus, he also leaves the Vulture in a bit of a wounded state. The unfortunate part is that wounded state comes with combat reflexes, and Black Adam's okay with that. So it depends on whether or not he's used a giant reach or not. Long story short, I kind of look at Black Adam as a possible Jason playing a tent pole. You heard it here first, folks. Wouldn't be the first time. I've played a Jakeem team in the past. Amber's dying in the corner. They're like, "Oh my god, who is this man? And what has he done with my husband?"
Oh yeah, I guess that reminds me that there was one other thing that WizKids showed us today, confirming that that Black Panther should be legal for Nats for U.S. nationals.
Because it's what, a June 5th?
June 5th,
Yep.
and then that's literally same as What If, exactly the right amount of time, unless there's a delay. But I'm pretty sure at this point that if they're showing that date, they know what they're talking about, and they're probably anticipating things going smoothly. So I would hope, at least.
Yeah. I mean,
that invites some interesting possibilities, like the fact that there's no way that the Infinity Gauntlet for 30 points is not going to give some sort of protected outwit and whatnot. Maybe just Power Cosmic.
Mm-hmm.
So that opens up a lot of possibilities. Like that Mr. Jakeem, I think, could get some play at Nationals if that happens.
Yeah, because that'll be the last weekend he's legal.
Yeah,
last major tournament season he would be legal.
Well, didn't the Opens... Is there a weekend in June where the Opens are actually happening?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. I know we're actually starting to hear that the early July weekend...
I think it was like June... I think, actually there's... The first weekend of Opens should be end of June, the 29th and the 30th, so U.S. Nationals and then potentially... I guess you could argue 3 events for any one person because U.S. Nationals and anybody can only play up to 2 Opens, so... Yeah.
Well,
I know Devin said that he would love to play Protected Outwit Witch Queen. So.
Yeah, he would do that. Devin is mad love with that Witch Queen. Although, is she going to be as good without Mjolnir?
It's a good question.
And that is, one of the things I do kind of like. I guess we can talk in terms of state of the game to kind of keep the show going. One of the things I do like about this particular era versus, say, the resource era is that you have to make a lot of options, or you have to inform yourself based on the characters you're using to include objects on your team. You know what I mean? So, like, you can use Doc Ock's arms on the Vulture. It makes him super gross. Or Mjolnir on, like, Star Fox or Witch Queen. But you could also... I've seen Exospecs really work on Star Fox as well. So it's that situation where you actually have a lot of questions as to which equipment you can include. And I'm kind of... I'm very much okay with that, to be brutally honest. Granted, there's greater problems with the greater state of the game that I think we want to spend a different episode on. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Jay?
I feel like there are problems. I mean, it's never going to be perfect, but I do feel like, oh god, this is like awkward.
It's that thing. Like we can all address the elephant in the room. The Vulture is problematic for the meta right now. Like that.
Well,
that
yes and no. He solves a major problem that does exist with, the Retaliator Swarm, Pogs are potentially a problem. Like, he does solve a problem, but the problem is when it goes too far in that direction and it makes too many options not viable. It's a balancing act for sure.
It's one of those things. It goes from, I would say, the Vulture against those people. If anybody says a Pog and a Retaliator team is problematic for the meta, you need to play more games. And just, pick your targets a little better. they're strong, but you can very simply mitigate a lot of the problems that come with those. There's powers that exist already, such as energy explosion. But the problem, what I think the problem is that it's always okay to, in my opinion, have like a figure that turns a matchup, like say something that turns a bystander matchup into like a 60-40 or 70-30. But when we start skewing to the level of like 95-5, you it makes a specific strategy basically unplayable. Now, there's always going to be ways to play the game that in competitive are just not playable. Like if I build a team of just commons that don't really have a cohesive nature to them, then yeah, I'm going to get my butt kicked, right? If I don't put together an archetype, as it were, I'm probably going to get my butt handed to me. You know, if you bring a pile, yeah, okay, expect to get your butt handed to you in any world. But when the major archetypes that exist within the game, such as the swarm team, such as the one-man army, such as the balanced out team, or the tent pole strategy, or the doesn't die tech, when one of these teams goes from a 60-40, 70-30 weak matchup to like a 95-5 and a full-blown archetype becomes unplayable in the meta, that's where I think things are problematic, because it's not just bystanders and retaliators that really kind of suffer in this vulture era, or the era that the vulture exists. But it's anything that plays, like if you play 7 or 8 characters on your team, or 5 or 6 characters on your team, the depth of dial on those characters is going to be questionable at its best, and Vulture will just eat through those dials very, very hardcore. And that's where I get concerned, right? It's something's allowed to be stronger than another team in the rock paper scissors, but there's still got to be like a 70-30, 60-40 era, way that there's got to be a way that the team can win. Whereas if I take an archetype that has existed and completely just make it unplayable because of the existence of a single team that doesn't just beat that, but also has a 60-40 against a lot of other archetypes, that's, I think, is problematic. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Jay?
Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but before Vulture, like between Ghost Rider days and now, were we seeing people getting OKO'd, like, or one turn KO'd?
Let's see. Well, the Vulture, I mean, if you look at the Ghost Rider meta, there wasn't really a one turn KO, but you were as good as dead when you lost something in that team. And if we go to the Metron era, the Metron era of things was, okay, our Metrons are going to be dead. We're playing with 100 points of our team. 105 points of our team, sorry. Mm-hmm. So whose 105 points is going to win versus my opponent's 105 points? Who's actually got a better 105 point team? Because eventually what would happen with the Metron era is Metron, Pulse Wave, Pulse Wave, Pulse Wave, Pulse Wave. What's still alive? Okay, this one's still alive. Charge or Hypersonic with whatever that was left, because I've Pulse Waved it into almost oblivion and it'll die. So even in those most broken one figure eras, there was teams that did kind of lose in the first turn, because I think it was the 300 point Justice League team had 3 actions in a single turn that could deal like up to 12 damage. Certain archetypes were a lot of archetypes in those eras were unplayable because those teams would kill you in a single turn, if not completely take out a major portion of your team. So, and of course the Justice League team base itself would immediately lose to the Ghost Rider in one turn. Mm-hmm. That was a given. So,
yeah, I'm trying to remember. I know Paris won in like 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. I think the Daniel Joins game was like somewhere in the realm, let's say 12 minutes.
There was, I think, more of the, like, there's 2 times that Daniel Joins has won. Both of them were very quick games, and I can say for sure that the one with the Brother Voodoo had so many like, it was, most of the time was spent in that game on the attack to Brother Voodoo. Because he was attacked, then the attack was probbed, then he was attacked, then the attack roll was made, then he made a super sense, then he was attacked again, then he made the super sense again, then he was attacked again, and then he finally took some damage, and then attacked again, and finally because I think it was 2 things tried to attack the Brother Voodoo, and then the Ghost Rider attacked it. or something to that level of effect. I'm probably a little bit off base, to be brutally honest. I don't remember all the details. I just remember most of the game happened here, and then Ghost Rider charged, and it was effectively over. And then again, his other one, both Metrons kind of met. Nightcrawler managed to pick up the Crimson Gem of Sidorak. His opponent had the Professor's Kid Zoom, which turned off Hypersonic, which was fine because a Nightcrawler with 14 movement charge is okay as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kid Zoom was probably one shot in that matchup because he was not very deep dialed.
Well, yeah, because he also picked up an object with the. Because I think Crimson Gem gives super strength.
They give you super strength and a passive +1 damage. So
yeah.
And Kid Zoom had really bad. I think he was a 9 attack top dial too.
I
think he was 5 clicks.
Kid Zoom was 5 clicks, 9 attack, 2 damage on the first dial. His power is called Stop. Other characters can't use Hypersonic. And a special attack, which is the middle dial, which he didn't see, was the timeline push. He used Incapacitate when he was using it during Hypersonic. But yeah, it's a 5-click dial, which if you got past that first click super senses, it was done for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're talking things theorycraft of the past, comparison to state of the meta now. It's that whole math thing that you have to do the comparison operators and compare how we're in a cycle of this game, and we do enter these eras where it's like sometimes you kind of look at an era and go, is there anything else I can play? And honestly, there's been times not too long ago where we could technically call it a fairly stale metagame, as Jakeem Thunder and the Goblin King really dominated one year at Worlds, right? Because, I mean, and when I say dominated, I mean, they were everywhere. I was guilty of playing it, and every single, if you weren't playing one of those, there was one piece you were guaranteed to have on your team, and that was the Pin Pocket Tank. So, it's a state right now where an archetype gets blown out of the water. I looked at my scientist team right now with the state of Vulture and as it is, unplayable.
Mm-hmm.
I can't play my monster team at all in this state. No. Which, unless somehow, and I think the Vulture variants all have Outwit on them nowadays, right? Just to deal with whales, if I remember correctly.
Always? I'm trying to remember what Lucas's team was. I don't think he did.
I know Dustin Cedars did because he has Al Jordan, the most Canadian version of it.
He's like Canadian. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you should just have Outwit generally. I know Emily has Unseen and Lockjaw.
Yeah. Anyway, a lot of them come with a source of Outwit. Yeah. So that means a defense power is vulnerable. The whales, as we've said, there's a video of a final game at Estates, and it is basically Tyler Spee's whale team, with, I think, some variation on it.
I think he basically had Cap, Venom, and Frankenstein instead of Minnie.
Yeah. And it, in one turn, I think it was Lucas Van Hollen.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
Who's one of our patrons. He just walked all over the team, even missing multiple attacks.
He missed like 4 or 5 attacks, but the stats were so high and he had so many charges banked, quote unquote, that it didn't matter.
Yeah, and it's part of it is because of the way that we kind of accept how Mystics and Steel Energy work, this KOing tends to appear to work in a similar manner.
Right, because you can only resolve one thing at a time.
That's right.
So
yeah, which it's ultimately such a scary thought. So anyway, going back, so I'm now nixed on 3 different archetypes or 3 different versions of a team I'm super comfortable playing. So now and this is the thing, it does become a level of a test of a good solid player to be able to step out of their comfort zone. And I'm forced to step out of my comfort zone. When I say things like I'm considering Black Adam, I am way out of my comfort zone. Right? And I'm considering playing him at 200 points. This is not a thing Jason does.
That is out of character for sure.
So suffice to say, I'm in a state of desperation right now where I'm looking at this Vulture and I'm going, what do I do? And this is not to take away from players who are using it, because when it comes to competitive play, we're using the best optimal strategies. And right now, this is a very potent. Use it or beat it sort of situation. Now there are teams it is not ideal against. I believe the one man army Unimind. Jay, you might know a little better because you played with Emily more. What teams does Emily really, or does the Vulture seem to have a hard time playing against?
Yeah, hard to kill stuff in general, or stuff that KO's weird in general. Like, now that I think about it, Ironheart is a funny one. Actually, I guess yeah. So weird characters that just don't die easy, obviously, or characters. Even Lockjaw, funnily enough, does not give Vulture a charge because his trait KOs himself, sort of thing. So if you
Mm-hmm.
want to do that, or like I said, Ironheart does the same thing. There's plenty of good don't die out there. Like, what's Vulture going to do against a team that has like Joker, Lockjaw, that sort of thing, right? Like, you
Well,
can make
against
it.
against Joker, it's going to score 10 points per hit.
I mean, yeah, but if you construct the team properly to not get just destroyed, like I guess people are going to start playing. I guess you just can't play random small things. Like I feel like playing the tank is a really bad play now because that just gives away. Like you're giving such a small portion of your team, like less than 10 points, and you're just letting your opponent attack you more because Vulture is like up there. So yeah, I've been reconsidering when I've been looking at my current team and definitely wanted to cut down on the retaliators just because it doesn't seem like a good idea to give more opportunity for those stuff to get hit. So
That
it's
becomes
also weird because on the other hand, the only the best thing you have against Vulture is basically guaranteeing you, well, not guaranteeing, but all but guaranteeing you can go first if you have theme with high enough. But how do you fill out your theme without those retaliators? Because it's very convenient to have a 10-point Flora add one to your theme for that small cost, but then maybe it dies. So
yeah,
I do think there's ways to play around it.
yeah.
Like automatically giving up going first in most scenarios, I think is a big thing, especially because of the reliance on equipping objects and how easy it is to deal with that. Like the turn one Jean Grey, you yoink it over. Like what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But then the other problem is that Vulture and the arms is only 60 points. Like that's a
Yeah.
whole team you have to build around with him.
Yep.
And like, yeah, yes, you need your TK, yes, you need your perplexes, but even then, like, even if you can play what the Lieutenant Ka for 25 points, and then the Vulture, and then the arms are 85. You can play two big Tonys and the gas canister for like 113 points. You have so many points left still after that.
Well, even then, you could also use Jean Grey as a 5 point source of TK to move him out. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Or I mean, but a lot of players are using the Harley Collins. That's why
fair.
the main force TK option is a good thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're so versatile. I mean, it's actually gonna be interesting to see how many different kinds of builds there become because there's just so many options. I don't know if I built a Vulture team, I don't know what it would look like. I've never tried.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like the Vulture team is the Vulture with 240 points because it's a Vulture and Doc Ock's arms plus 240 points. That's part of the scariness of him, kind of. And like this is the strongest uncommon prime since Brother Voodoo, and Brother Voodoo didn't win games single handedly.
No, not even
He
close.
just used your team a little better. I do want to address something in the chat since we're on the topic, and it is kind of it's a terminology system. And Ty Design, he's asking, does the Vulture bank his free charges, or is that just a term? Doesn't he use his free charge after he kills a character? So the reason we're using the term bank is because every time he KOs a character, that trigger has to resolve, right? So what'll happen is when players give the Doc Ock arms to the Vulture, he's now got Flurry, which is what screws everything up. All right. So now Vulture's got Flurry, and they're perplexing up his stats a butt ton. Okay. The details on this aren't the important part. He's getting 6 damage with like 14 attack. It's what's surviving that for the most part? Almost nothing, right? But in a single charge action, he's able to make 2 attacks. And if each attack KOs a character, that means he can now resolve charge at no cost twice after the initial charge resolves. Okay, so now he's got this trigger twice there ready to go. Similar in a way, if you were to hit twice with Flurry with Steel Energy, after the attack resolves, you would heal 2 clicks, but you don't heal them as you hit. You heal them after the action resolves. So you would heal 2 after making the attack. So similar in that ruling, I've KO'd 2 characters with the single action of Charge Flurry. So I can now use Charge, but because I'm using Charge at no cost, it doesn't follow the same things. And my close at no cost from the Charge is still a no cost, which means you can repeat powers at no cost, which means I can now Charge Flurry again. Okay, and if I happen to kill 2 more characters with this, which is why Bystander and Retaliators are just absolutely getting murdered by this, I now can bank 2 more charges that have to resolve, but I still haven't resolved the second one from the first attack. Do you see how this starts to get out of hand? it's, and I'm using like resolve as a magic term. None of these terms exist except for the fact that after you KO somebody, you get to, after resolutions, charge on the KO each time it triggers. So when we use terms like bank, we're shortening that explanation. So, and Emily also jumped in. She said Tom's Alpha Strike Foot Elite Sam Cap team is really hard for her to beat because it goes first.
Yeah, that's the one big flaw of the team in my mind.
Yeah,
that it's, if you go second, your opponent can go first. So.
Yes, that is true, Jason. If you go if you go first or if you go second, your opponent does go first. But yeah, this team, the Vulture-based teams, do lose map rolls to theme teams. It's just a general given because the Vulture himself has a very crappy set of keywords with which to build around. Brute and the Magia. Now the Magia is okay. It's buildable now, but it's still not doing things on the level that the non-theme version does. Because, and especially, like, when I saw Dustin Cedars' version of this team, I was like, oh my god, he's got 2 double perplexers. And
Thank God you can't play him with Red Leader, because that would be...
Oh my god, that would be so gross. Thank God for the Prime rule, right, guys?
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, these days... The Prime, like, you're not using your Prime all the time. Like, like if you don't have Professor X ID, like what Prime to most teams have? Like the Unimind team, I don't think the Prime Thanos is actually that good.
No.
So like you may as well use Cersei. So like that's out. Mm-hmm. One Man Army Black Panther, no. Like obviously Vulture himself is a Prime, but that's a specific build. But other archetypes, like with the monsters. There's no monster primes, are there, that are any good? Like, so...
No. I mean, honestly, I've played the monster team pretty much to death, and there's not a prime I look at and go, yeah, I'm using that.
Yeah, you're not using that Prime Thanos.
No.
So yeah, the Prime thing barely matters outside of, like, the Collins-wise, you have the Brood X. That's about it. So, meh.
And now I'm starting to think of it. I have to do a quick check. There may be a monster team that can survive the Vulture on his first go. let me just double check just to be sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 3 100-point Carnages.
Nice. Good team.
Because they'll be able to retaliate on them too, and they will survive 12. The first attack they survive, and then the second attack they go to stop. So then,
if the Vulture player is playing a Groot and gives you a Leslie Evans, can a Carnage survive being attacked 3 times?
No, Carnage. Wait, no.
That's the thing too. Like even if you're playing a one-man army, Carnage, that team can still get. Actually, I mean, you can play multiple Groots actually.
Mm.
So like even against like a one-man army, you still have. I mean, Emily beat me when I was playing one-man army Black Panther because she just. I mean, her rolls were good and my rollouts didn't happen. So.
And there's a number of there's a number of points on that dial that just don't have a damage reducer, so you end up just going to stop on that, right?
Yeah.
So, oh man, and yeah, if you can't get the super senses as well. So the long and short of it is, right now it's the state of if you're planning to play competitive play, and you play like this is my official warning to you as a player. looking to enjoy themselves and have fun. If you're going to a competitive based tournament right now and you plan on playing a bystander team or a heavy retaliator based team, if you see a vulture across the board, prepare your body for what's about to happen, and it's not going to be pretty. So that's my what's the word I'm looking for? PSA right now. And this comes to the next question is, as a player, we can sit here and harp and complain and whine. The meta is broken. That's not what we do here. We adapt, we modify, we adjust, we brace ourselves, and we prepare ourselves. So that said, we have to ask ourselves, is this a play or die situation? And is there teams we can play? The answer, of course, as we said, is yeah, there are teams we can play. Absolutely. But you do have to fundamentally know a lot of the rules on how things work. So, for instance, if we were to go through the archetype, Jay, you've already said it. Don't die in one-man army. Can do it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that aside, some tentpole teams can work. Is there any other archetype that exists that is playable, survivable against it, or would even be a direct counter?
I mean, we already mentioned Alpha Strike, which is just generally a thing. I mean, even without the sand, there's still other variants. Like if you have a good Hawkeye team, you can hopefully. Well, you give Vulture mobile with the Proxima Spear, and then hopefully kill all the rest of the little stuff on the team. Or the Hulks can do a lot of damage. So there's actually a lot of good Alpha Strike options right now. So yeah. That's probably your best bet because, again, I mean, if the Vulture can hit things and give you enough Leslies and all that stuff, he can still. I mean, then even if he gets a good couple attacks on your OMA and then you kill him, he still has a well over about 5/6 of a team to deal with you. So it's not like, oh, I've killed Vulture, I won the whole game. Like not even.
Yeah, if you've killed the Vulture without losing more than 60 points, you're ahead. You still got the rest of the team to kill.
Yep. You still have a game.
Yeah. You're still in it. What strategically? So obviously, we just no, Michael. Just to kind of address directly in the chat. No, Michael, we haven't answered your question directly yet. We just answered 2 questions that happen to be on topic, so as to kind of keep things going.
I've also been looking at maps that interfere with the equipment process, and I haven't really found anything that works so great yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, like even my scientist team with Stark's Tower, like it doesn't. There's still you can go diagonal with Stark's Tower. I tried.
Yeah, and there weren't any weird elevated starting areas that worked because I mean with all the side step and all the TK, I don't think there's anything you can do. No. Like the Skull Camp has weird elevated starting areas, but even then, you can totally maneuver around it. I don't think there's much you can do outside of, I guess, guaranteeing that you can take care of their objects. So maybe an expanded starting area could be good for that.
Mm-hmm. So are we? I guess the real question then is: are we in an arms? Patrick Iboko on Majestics recently put up an article saying we're in a bit of an arms race to go first to do our thing. Are we now in the arms race in order to stop the Vulture or deal with the Vulture or survive the Vulture? Or do you think there's still enough things to say? Like, and I'm looking ahead in my space, my headspace, I'm post July already because I'm not going to be able to make it to U.S. Nationals myself. But, players who are going to U.S. Nationals, there's still a number of teams that can out first turn it, I think. And really do a number on it. I think, the Hawkeye team still do a number on it, right? Or still kind of outpace it to a certain degree?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know how much people are playing that Hawkeye right now, because I feel like it's gotten saturated to the point where people know what to do, which is exactly what's going to happen to Vulture. Like, you can't... Like, it's... Playing a team that only has one game plan means that people are going to plan around it, so...
Yeah.
The initial... The Vulture shock has happened. People are planning for it now.
Vulture shock, I like that.
So,
Dad approved on that joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually would not see myself playing Vulture just because I don't like the idea of automatically, even just regardless of going first or second, just automatically losing map choice is such a thing now.
Mhm.
So, you know,
My hard case right now is if I'm not gonna play my team style that I like, and I have to accept that eventually they did something that said, no, Jason, you can't use your bystanders anymore. um, I have to accept that I do have to step away, but when I do that, I have to like the characters I'm playing because I'm I'm unfortunately the stubborn type of person who does look at certain metagames and say, "Well, I'm just gonna lose." And I mean that is what it is. I am definitely at the drawing board state right now, where I'm looking at how to change up my strategy while at the same time surviving the onslaught that is the vulture. I'm accepting that as what I like to call a well-informed human being. I am lying to myself when I say that.
I also don't know how long we have to worry considering that pre-release for Black Panther is in starting in literally a month, so
Mm-hmm.
previews should start soon.
Yeah,
Like if I had to guess, I would have to guess possibly this week, at the latest next week.
yeah.
So
Who knows? Maybe Black Panther and the Illuminati has that return of something like Harry Leland we had in the past.
yeah, and there's
Man,
also just like 11 equipment, so who knows? That regardless of any figure in the set, if there's that many equipment, there's going to be something relevant.
I can't tell you how much I do miss the Harry Leland right now, though. No charge for you on the second one.
Oh man, what that would be such a time to be alive.
That was
Or where's the Doctor Fate? You know what we need right now? We needed the Doctor Fate ID not retire for the no perplex.
yeah,
Can
yeah.
you imagine like the going for turn one against Vulture, just calling the Doctor Fate just so they can't use the perplexes, and then it's like, oh, you know,
Well, somebody does have a question for that for later. So that's kind of our initial state of the meta and where the future of the next couple episodes is probably going to look at because U.S. Nationals is right around the corner. People want to know and prepare for that. So we're going to spend a lot of time for the next couple weeks for sure talking about this topic. Preparing yourself for U.S. Nationals, covering archetypes and how to beat them and stuff like that, or what is viable and what is no longer viable, or what will lose to certain strategies in the game. That's going to be the next couple weeks, for sure. Right now, it's just kind of cool down and let Rebirth sink in, and then, of course, prepare ourselves because Black Panther: The Illuminati is just right around the corner. So, and there's actually a number of questions in the chat that do raise some of the on topic things. So we're actually going to be moving on to questions. Yeah, it was a short one today this week, guys. Wasn't much to talk about, and even then, we're still going at like almost an hour now. So, we do also want to take a second to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/clix. Wonderful people opening up themselves up to a little bit of extra support for the channel. Goes a long way to keep things running, keep this wonderfully large powered internet connection going, and just keep the channel spicy, as it were. And on that note, I don't think we actually ended up with anything in the Facebook. We'll give it a double check, but in the meantime, the chat has been active. Thank you guys. We've needed some stuff. And in the chat, because I guess he missed a Facebook post, we can put an official stamp on the episode because Mr. Christakis has asked a question in the chat. He wants to know, or he says, Aries mentioned, and this is Austin Aries of 2 Clicks from KO. I believe we still have a link to their stuff in below. In a recent 2 Clicks from KO episode, that the map/map bonus can be the most important thing on your build going forward. What do you think? It's a weapon. It is definitely a weapon that you can use. You just have to be able to use it. You know what I mean? So, as an example, my scientist team takes us to Tony Stark's tower if I win the map roll. Is that something that helps me win? It gives me my guys in the manner in which I want them. It gives me certain tools and board presence forward, but it's saying it's your most important weapon is only half of the explanation. I think it is you do have to be able to take your team and use that map rule to your advantage. And I don't know, is there anything you want to jump on top of there, Jay?
I don't think that a 0 to 5 point game element should be the most important thing because that would be bad. I don't think. Are there any? I mean, they're good ones. Like even if we're talking just location bonuses, are there any that are that good that they make or break competitive? I guess the seals in some matchups matter a lot, but like even then, like nobody's winning games just because they have seals. I would hope.
Yeah, I know PJ threw me off for a game because he had puffins, and I let myself get over. I ended up overvaluing that part of my team.
Yeah, they can be very impactful. Like the fact that they can pick up your opponent's equipment objects, assuming they're light, is very good. Wakanda's good, but it's defensive, really, not offensive. Tony Stark, obviously, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if. I mean, obviously their map does matter. That's why winning it matters. But I don't feel like it's gonna be. I mean, I guess it's up there, but like everything on your build should probably be more important than map because if you can't function based, we've talked about this before. If your team is made or broken by a map, it's not a good team, really.
Yeah, that is a fair assessment.
Like I guess you can lose a game because of map rule because going first and second really matters, but just losing map and then knowing that you lost a game should not be a situation that happens.
Mm-hmm.
That makes any sense.
But it is a control element. I think is what I was trying to get across here is it's important. It is not a game. It can be a game decider in certain points. It can be a game enabler, and it's all about whether or not you can make use of that position. Because there's one thing, as an example, I believe the underground cavern might slow down Vulture ever so slightly because a lot of tight corridors, hard for him to draw a line of fire, get to certain spaces on the map. Just as an example, I think I'm actually absolutely incorrect on this in this particular description. But at the same time, if you pick that map and your team requires wide open space, you've made a bad map choice. So it's not a matter of just getting the map choice that screws them. You got to be able to use it too, right?
Yeah, the situation of the map should swing the percentages of who's favored some amount, but
And it's not a matter of should or would. It sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And right now, I think the biggest problem is that the Vulture team isn't affected by it.
Not really.
No.
It's not even like you can tie him up with like tight corners and plasticity because he ignores characters. Like,
yeah,
I don't really. I can't think of a map that really matters that matchup.
Mm-hmm. And that's just that matchup. I mean, I actually remember the look on my opponent's face when I had -2 to his +9 on the. He was playing Hawkeye and I was playing a monster team and I beat him on the dice roll. I took him to the underground cavern. He's like, now I got to work. Because I forced him to do extra work on his team. He still ended up picking up a win. His team was still strong and has a really good matchup against a team like mine. But there's also a lot of things that went wrong for my opponent. Like certain things missed when they should have hit, and it was just like, not my problem. That still figures deciding the game. All right. Next, Michael Fitzpatrick. Question: is there a better self-contained 90 points than Star Fox Mjolnir even now? Okay, specifically 90 points because I could go lower at 60. But a better self-contained 90 points than Star Fox Mjolnir. What do you think, Jay?
That's such a specific number.
In the game state right now, that is a very oddly specific number.
I like the idea of this is off the top of my head. Green Arrow Stormbreaker is pretty good.
Yeah, that's Green Arrow Stormbreaker. I think George played that.
He did. He won. I think he won the U.S. Cup with it. So
yeah. So that is a thing. Exospecs and Goblin King would be fun. And that's slightly less. That's like 87 points.
Yeah, Title Cap Mjolnir could be good.
Title Cap Mjolnir's not bad. We're talking about the Title Cap Resilient?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. There's two title caps now. There's cap resilient and cap
Principled.
principled. So
Yeah.
that's why we had to just clarify for our fans.
Yeah, for sure. So that's a good point. I can't really think of any combos like that to add up to exactly 90 right off the top of my head, unfortunately.
But no, to directly answer the question, at specifically 90, Star Fox Mjolnir is super strong. An 8 range flurry is gross. We know this. It's why it continues to get played. And
it still does something that nothing else really does.
Yeah.
Well, that or Star Fox Exospecs, like getting that sort of awesome attacker and support in the same combo, and then the random healing. Like, there's nothing really else like it. So
yeah. So yeah. All right. Next up, N's Captain 11. Cool name. How can I use special terrain effectively? The first step is being able to make use of it, I think, is important. Because, like Tony Stark's car, if you've got a team that you know moves in close and kind of leaves it stranded in the back, you're misusing it. Or you're not taking the most effective use out of it. So the step one is make sure your team can effectively use it. And step two, make sure that it gives your team a notable advantage in any terrain set. I think those are the two keys to me. And as a kind of a side note, watch your matchups with things like the boxing ring. If you want to get in the boxing ring and your opponent's like, okay, let's get in the boxing ring. read the board. It happened like twice, I think, when I was playing with the scientist team and people brought boxing rings. I was like, you ever boxed with a dinosaur? You've probably used it more than me, though, Jay. What do you say about special terrain?
Yeah, you probably don't want your opponent to be benefiting from it as much or more than you. So yeah, like you don't want to be placing your boxing ring such that your opponent is happy about it or doesn't care. Like if your opponent has an Alpha Strike team, you don't want to put the boxing ring on your side of the map, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I learned very well playing against Emily because, well, she only plays Alpha Strike, so
yeah. I mean, Emily's in a rush to play HeroClix. I don't know if you know this. So if on turn 2 you aren't sweating profusely because a force is staring you down the throat, it's like Emily has decided to take it easy in the game apparently, and that's so. Yeah, when you play against Emily, expect turn 2 to have combat. Sorry, carry on there, Jay.
Yeah, honestly, just the way the game is now, if it doesn't do enough for you, it's a waste of points. Like, that's almost 2 student IDs, or or a location bonus. Like, every little point does actually matter these days. So,
yeah. So effectively, if you can't make a solid foundational use out of the special terrain, you might be better off, even on a non-theme team, looking for a map bonus that you might be able to use. As an example, believe it or not, the Stark Tower Constellation bonus is pretty good because you can get a 5-point proper out of that. So, food for thought. What do we got? We got that one. Got that one. We covered that in the midst. Okay, here we go. Tie Design, is the OP Mr. Terrific a counter to Vulture teams?
No,
not a hard.
Not at all. not at all.
If anything, he's a target for them.
Yeah. If his dial was long enough such that he couldn't be double tapped, sure, but just unfortunately, no. Like, Vulture can deal with him way too easily. Go for something else first, all that stuff. Like, and also, I don't know if right now any of his keywords are that good. And if you're trying to counter Vulture, playing a team that could lose map roll to it seems like not a particularly good way to go. Like, the thing I really like against the team is the being able to go first and guarantee you get your stuff done, or guarantee you can mess with their stuff, sort of thing. So I don't think, is anybody playing JSA right now? Like, I don't think they should be necessarily. So yeah, I think he has like JSA Scientist, maybe.
Might have the Terrifics, but that doesn't matter.
I don't think he actually does, but yeah, you are correct that it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so unfortunately, no. I'm sure he will have his time in the sun at some point because it's a very useful tool. Or I guess it's one of those characters that is good to keep in mind when you're just in general.
Hmm.
One of those, I guess, what would you even call it? Like a kind of a condition almost that is just good to keep in mind, like that it exists. It's kind of like copycat or like Nighthawk Prime, that sort of thing. Just
Yeah.
knowing that it exists is important.
Yeah. Its existence causes question. That is a certain element to it. Um, as well, worth kind of thinking about is that it's he is a 4-click dial, and as a result, if you're up against a vulture team, it's just a society martial artist and scientist. That's what I was slowly trying to find. You get stuck with him way back and possibly behind like a barrier. Like that's the best way to possibly have him survive against vulture. Because one of the things is the vulture does rely a lot on stat bumps, right? So then he's relying on semi-human stats. He does still come with an 11 attack, 3 damage. And you're still flurrying, which means that's still like 2 attacks at 11 attack, 12 attack if you bump it up 1 with 4 damage. That's still a potential 8 damage on a charge. Not a lot of things in the current realm are really surviving it. So now,
And also, yeah, and just all those keywords, like the rest of your team is going to be vulture vulnerable, like JSA. Like most things on that team are not surviving even a single attack from vultures. So
martial artists, a lot of them are squishy, though a lot of them do come with super senses. Scientists, some of the best scientist teams are pog based teams. Ah! Ugh.
yeah,
Mine,
Mirajoy does not like being hit by vulture.
no, no. Dinosaurs don't like dinosaurs die to vultures very quickly. Okay, that's because I've got to hang up. Okay, so ignoring my love of the vulture or love of the Stegron, it's the scientist team that exists in the current area or the current brain set. It has a hard time with the vulture for sure. And that's just sans, like even with the help of Mr. Terrific, it's just not enough going for it. He also follows up with what about Mr. Oz, the ability to manipulate TK after resolutions could be a positive or negative for vulture teams, and that's the thing. This conversation happens a lot. Where yeah, okay, Mr. Oz you back. So what happens to the metagame? Well, you got 240 points to still to work with. 40 of those points become Mr. Oz to push it back forward. The meta will shift around him. And this is the other thing is a lot of people are considering Mr. Oz as an addition to the team because he'll just push the TK even further, negating the need for the 50-50 sidestep in a lot of cases.
Yeah, but even if you have the opposing Oz, like all that'll do is get it to the point where they'll just start creeping up. Like it's going to be the situation where you're not going to have the alpha. Like vulture teams have the alpha. They'll just start creeping up a little bit to the point where they can mitigate that, and then they'll just attack you anyway. And then you're stuck in your corner of the board because if you move up, you know that they'll get you. So it's actually kind of worse in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Just relying on Mr. Oz for that.
Mr. Oz will slow down the pace. You got to pick up the pace if you're going to do it.
Yeah,
I think is really what we're getting at there. All right, next up, Kevin Sharp. Was the new Titans Tower map already banned? Yeah.
yeah. I think it was like literally the day of.
Yeah, because you can actually strand teams. Not cool. Not cool. Next up, Lucian Carter. Yeah, because I think it's like a special terrain means certain teams won't be able to get onto the elevated terrain, and it's just not.
Yeah, because you have the weird portal elevator thing, and then you have if you block it off a special terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they need to ignore elevated, and I think the only way to guarantee that you can get that on every team is the Shadowcat inspiration. So yeah, you don't want to have to force every team to play a certain game element to function. But that should not be how the game works.
Yeah. And then Lucian Carter, who's also David C. in the Patreon. We saw your question in the Patreon. We're just getting to it. What are some good uses for the all-new Wolverine? He's also interested in using Anole in animal teams. So I've looked at Anole a number of times and just been disappointed, to be brutally honest. But some of the best usages for the all-new Wolverine is getting a Jonathan Pog out. That's one of my favorite uses. Am I lame for that?
It's a good pog.
It's
The only problem is that you want. I mean, assuming you're using it as an ID, the problem is that you have to make sure that you can get Ona Wolverine off the map because she is super easy to kill and 100 points.
mm-hmm.
Like, yes, Comet Reflexes is good, but if your opponent doesn't have a way to shoot her, I don't know what they're playing. So, yeah, that's quite a pog. I like the idea of using the Jonathan for Mastermind fodder because the die twice thing.
Mm-hmm.
And also solving the problem with shape change because shape change is kind of common now. But also we
Mm-hmm.
have the Joker gas for that now.
Joker's gas goes with Joker's wild, right?
Yeah, but I mean, not everybody's thinking post rotation. So
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying you got a time limit on it because it's
yeah,
late
for
April now.
sure.
May, June, July. So
Yeah,
you got like 2 full months by the end of April, right?
yeah,
Because
it's true.
June and then or May and then June and then it's gone. So I'm future sighted. I
I'm
thinking
looking forward to
ahead.
the future.
Oh man, am I ever worried about that future? But yeah, Anol, trust me, I'm in your park, man. He blew me away in sealed and just failed to impress in any other environment, to be brutally honest. And that was the other thing is the guy who kind of blew me out of the water and sealed with Anol went on to lose the next game because his opponent was able to hit him. And that was a big thing. It's like I wasn't able to hit him even on the 16 defense. I was an embarrassment to the X-Men Xavier School sealed, to be brutally honest. That was a massive embarrassment in sealed in that one.
Oh no.
Well, I mean, I told you, I've shared the story of the WKO where I won 2 games that I knew full well I didn't deserve to win, right?
Probably remember that. I
Yeah.
think.
It was embarrassing to say the least, and it's like, how am I here? And then I got to the third round. It's just like, I'm 2-0 with 15 points. What am I
Was this a
doing
victory
here?
or something?
What's that?
Was this a comic book addiction?
This is a comic book addiction. It's a WKO.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, and the first game I should have lost. I don't know why my opponent didn't kill what he was supposed to kill. It's just like I'm sitting like 2 of my guys are on the last click time. Are you kidding me? We're going to roll off with. All right, fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that is what it is. All right. So yeah, all new Wolverine is a great call-in. Anol is not that great. Jay, anything you want to say before we start to wrap it up?
I don't think so.
Neither do I. All right. So on that note, Jay, thank you for for entertaining us on a fairly not hypey, not a lot to talk about episode.
For sure. Hopefully next week we start seeing the news start to pour in.
And if not, we have to actually start discussing the metagame for U.S. Nationals as it starts to form. Just talking archetypes, we'll probably start with that and go from there. In the meantime, I want to take a second to thank our sponsors over at MajesticCCG.com. Add a / Apex - Insiders and sign up for $3 a month for access to some great brain dumps from some great players in the game of HeroClix. Great champions have poured out their brains to the site, and it's worth taking a look to become a better HeroClix player. If you're looking to get into competitive play, the Apex Insiders is a great access entry point. And then every so often on the main site, you see wackiness from some guy with an ever-growing beard as he tries to lose weight. It's a fun old site. It's a great place to be a HeroClix player and to keep your eyes open. But on that note, guys, U.S. Nationals is around the corner. If you're prepping for that, you know what's a good way to get some prep? Is to practice. Practice will make your team better. Have a good night, everybody.